Back with another episode of the 1% Club. Welcome, everyone. I hope everyone's on their purpose, doing well. And once again, this is the Vigor Warriors Channel 2. And the reason we call it Vigor Warriors is for the vitality and the vigor that males and females should have, and especially in the case of masculine energy and feminine energy. We want to live a long, prosperous life and to continue to just get better and better and better. And even though things around us may not be all that positive all the time, to keep going and keep on your journey and take it one day at a time. So Oscar had a very interesting question for me based on the last video that we did talking about confidence and retention. And so he asked the question, which was a very good one. Thank you, Oscar, and shout out to you. That we're talking about when does confidence build? And I'm going to do a series on this because there's some interesting things here through my experiences and what I've heard and read about as well on different types of videos and talking to people that is interesting and probably insightful here maybe to some of you guys who are younger and on different streaks, and why you go back and relapse and why I relapse and all those type of things. So let's look at this period of time. And obviously the answer to that is that it's going to be changing depending on, where you are in your life and those type of things. It took me a lot of years to get to the point where now I'm feeling very strong and confident. I wasn't always like that. And even in the streak type of thing, my confidence has grown and stronger and stronger. So let's examine that. When I was younger, I was negative. I grew up in an environment where there was a lot of pessimism and negative attitudes going on. And I think I'll actually do a video on negative attitudes and how that affects you. And we'll continue looking at this a little bit in that way too. But the negative attitudes had a very profound effect on me because I was thinking in terms of lack. And I was thinking in terms of not having things, and I was thinking in terms of very, very negative. And this has been the battle that I've had to fight for a lot of years because that gets ingrained in you. And we call that like muscle memory. And so in your mind, which is very powerful, in your mind, in your body, it all becomes muscle memory. And so you're used to certain things being a certain way, and that's how you form habits, and those things stick around you for a long time. And so because of that, what ends up happening is that you end up holding on to a lot of attitudes. And I found myself always wondering in my 20s why everybody else had a six pack of abs strength-wise, and they didn't worry about anything and all those type of things. And I realized that a lot of it came from my childhood and having a lot of negative types of things that were told to me, and unfortunately a lot of people are just not aware of this, and I don't hold any grudges after all these years, but I realized it wasn't a very positive type of situation. And because of that, I held a lot of negative thoughts about myself, and I went around with those, and so I wasn't very successful. Sports was actually the only thing I was very successful with, and that's because I had a mentality that I was pretty good at the time. And so the idea is that you have to create a positive type of attitude. Now, I struggled trying to figure all this out for many, many years. And I had just felt like there was really no hope until I started doing the Fountain of Youth stuff. And then 25 years later, it really came to me when I started doing the retention and the monk mode. And guys, this is I guess this is what it comes down to. You have to really have positive thoughts about yourself to be able to really overcome this problem, this issue we have in our society with fapping and porn and releasing. You have to kind of realize that the lifestyle needs to change. And all of a sudden now you cannot be thinking your first thoughts into sex or chasing women around. I'm talking to males here. And you can't just go ahead and think in those terms. You have to be on your purpose and goals. And you'll attract a lot more people to you, and especially a lot more women, because you're different. And they will be chasing you. But that makes you even stronger, that you have to be able to stay on your purpose. Now, what does that do? Well, the positive attitude, those type of things, makes you focus on your goals first. And that's what I wasn't doing. I was concentrating so much on, women and relationships and all those things, that I really wasn't focusing on my goals and positive types of things. And because of that, I lost a lot of relationships and lost a lot of situations. And it's when you don't care as much and you're doing other things, you'll attract all those other things to you. Now, I can't tell you why. It's psychology. Maybe it's just because you're being natural in your ideas and as a person, and you're being more natural, so that means that people see that more and are more attractive, and you're more powerful. But when you're on retention, and now you're going to monk mode, or something where now all of a sudden you're not even thinking about it, or trying not to think about it, and when you think about it, you move past it, and the energy doesn't even start bubbling up. I look at it like a cauldron, guys, almost. We're in the Halloween season here. You get a cauldron, and it starts bubbling up, and that's when you start losing that energy. I believe, and I think someone had said this a long time ago, is the fact that you're even thinking about releasing or edging, things like that, is that bad? Now I would say that is. Because I do think that what ends up happening is you feel different if you don't even do that. And because now you're shifting all your energy back to your goals and things that you're doing and focusing on. But the confidence will build. And I think the confidence will build at a certain level. Now, the trouble we have here, and this is what I found out. Why did I release? That's a good question, right? Now, I figured this out after a lot of years of kind of examining and thinking about this. But there was two things that happened. I would not release. Now, I'm not talking necessarily about having intercourse and sex. That's a little different situation, even though you could probably make the same kind of comparison. But people tend to do these things, and I know I tend to do these things when I was bored, right? I really had nothing going on, and so I felt like, well, this was okay to do, right? And B, I needed to release dopamine, which is what happens when we had a negative situation. So when you have stress, you have anxiety, those type of things, that's when you end up focusing on releasing. And this is when the problems occur, because now you're connected in your muscle memory to releasing when there's things happening that are bad. And so as time went on, because I have a negative attitude back when I was younger, the negative attitude then continued to promulgate then a release, because bad things were happening around me all the time. It was only when I started changing to more of a positive approach and being more optimistic than pessimistic, then I had no need to release, because when things were happy, there was no need to. I was at peace, things were great, things worked fine. But I found myself releasing, and a danger, guys, even up to this point, even though I'm at 510 days and I think I'm at 35 monk days, I still have to protect myself when things go bad. When you have a high level of stress, when things don't go well, then all of a sudden now you're thinking, okay, I need to turn this around. I need to release some dopamine. Now you're not thinking that, but this is what releasing is. And because of that, then that's what I end up doing. A lot of people do that. So if you really examine why you do this, these are the types of things you're talking about. You're either highly bored and you need something to fill your time up. And the same thing with chasing people around. You're either highly bored, or maybe something's happened to you and you need to kind of get your mind off of it. And so now you end up releasing. And that's when the danger begins, because now you're forming a habit. And your mind muscle, will continue going back to that situation. So the reason why people release, in my mind, is they're going back to something they remember and saying, okay, this was a nice thing to do when I felt this way. And you're going to have ups and downs in your life, so things are going to go good, for a while, then bad for a while. And at times when they go bad is when I found that I was releasing. So hopefully that's a little bit of advice, maybe some insight that you can kind of look at your own life to see if that's happening. And that's when I now have my ears up and protect myself more, when all of a sudden I'm not releasing because of a negative situation. And I have become stronger, and if I wade through that, then I can move on to the next day. And that's what I've had to do over the last couple of weeks. We've had some stressful situations, and so I've had to really be mindful to not even think about it or move to that type of situation. Okay, but again, it's your muscle memory. And we go back to that, and I'll kind of do a couple of videos on this. But the muscle memory is important. The same thing with the body. I'm now finally, after all these years, getting at least 2 of a six-pack. And I'm 60 years old. Now, why is it happening? Well, I believe a lot of it's retention. But I believe also that your body also has memory, your muscle memory. And your body has memory. And so because of that, what ends up happening is that you end up thinking in terms of how things work. And it takes time. And so that's why I'm 60. So it's taken me, 500 and some days to even get anything noticeable. And now I have, kind of my stomach's so much more defined than it used to be. And I'm 60, guys. So if you're 20 years old and 25 years old, it's going to take you a lot less time because you don't have that muscle memory. The same thing with behaviors. Obviously, the longer you're relapsing, like I was for, 40 some years, it's harder to break that pattern. So this is why it's important to start now. When you're younger, you're 20, 25, 30, because you don't have that many years of muscle memory to fight against. And that's what you're doing, fighting against that muscle memory. So my battle in some ways is a lot harder because it took me so much longer to get to this point. But now that I'm here, and especially after 510 days, I don't even think about it anymore. And I think, guys, that's got to be the key. There's nothing wrong, and my drive is higher than it's ever been. Now, that doesn't mean you're losing your sex drive, which I think some people are concerned about, and I heard this, from doctors all the time saying, you're going to lose your sex drive and, you don't become as strong and things like that. That's BS to me, right? That's BS to me. I think that's done. I'm not sure why that's done. Maybe there's a plan out there for a big farm and all these people that kind of work together. I don't know. But all I know is that wasn't the case for me, that the fact of the matter is that if you're sitting there conserving your energy and doing those type of things, that's a positive. You're not going to lose your sex drive and things like that. You're going to actually become stronger. You're just transferring it to something else, and using it in your body to help you overcome disease and a lot of things. And I believe in a holistic measure of health, and we'll kind of talk about that a little bit one day too. But the idea, guys, that we focus on this channel is betterment of your spiritual, mental, and all these type of things, physical type health. And again, my muscle memory wasn't strong enough in the years when I played football and everything to have any kind of six-pack or any kind of muscle that I should have had. And a lot of it was because I didn't have retention, and I had negative type thoughts and attitudes, and didn't really think I could do that. And now I see such a huge difference that I'm so mad at myself that it took me so many years to do this. I admire some of you young guys. You have a lot of years ahead. So this is when to start now and take the advice from a Socrates type character that I am, and Plato, and take advice from an older guy like me. Start now, my friends. Start now, retain, and go ahead and build that muscle, build that wealth, and build that, and you'll find the right kind of people to hang around too. All right, so we're going to do a couple more videos on this because I think Oscar brings up a good point about confidence. So in summary, Oscar, the idea is that the confidence will change, but it's when you're able to figure out when you are relapsing, why. And once you figure that out, if you can kind of get away and stop that, then your confidence grows in my book. Your confidence will grow once you start thinking positively than negatively about the situation. And that's when you start thinking in terms, okay, I can do this, I can handle this. Now, because of retention, your level of anxiety, those are going to lower, so your confidence is going to steadily go up. But it's not until you kind of figure out why you're releasing. And a lot of it goes back to, like I said, it's the boredom, or something's happening bad and you want to release dopamine for some reason. And now that's not something that you would think about consciously, but that's what's happening subconsciously. All right, guys, until next time, battle on.